Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Books Beyond the Rainbow. I'm Dave Moore, your host, and today we're going to be reading Chapter 4 of Billy Bean's book, Going the Other Way. Life Lessons from a Life in and Out of Major League Baseball. Chapter 4, The Bushes. Everyone was pretty leery of me the day I walked through the clubhouse door of the Glens Falls Tigers in June 1986. I had been drafted in the fourth round of the Detroit Tigers. No big deal. My $20,000 upfront money hardly qualified me as a bonus baby, even in those relatively modest times. But the Tigers had enough confidence in my ability and maturity to send me directly from college to Double-A ball, skipping rookie leagues and Single-A, a highly unusual move. Nowadays, with the plethora of teams and the huge expense of paying veterans, it's much more common to see major league rosters filled with relatively inexperienced players, some of whom have not paid their dues either in college or the minors. This trend shows up in the lack of fundamental play. Back then, franchises invested more money and time grooming players in the minors. A lot of the men on the team knew all about the All-American outfielder from Southern California. Shortly before I arrived, they'd seen me play on TV in the College World Series in Omaha. I fretted that my star billing would breed resentment and make it harder to win my teammates' confidence and acceptance. To succeed, it's crucial to find a safe place where you can concentrate on the game and forget about everything else. The last thing I needed was to worry about hostility, especially since I was about to face some of the best players I'd ever seen. My first professional game took place in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. I was batting third. The first pitch was a ball. The second pitch plunked me square in the back. Welcome to the pros, kid. I was determined to even the score. My next time at bat, I belted the second pitch. I saw a fastball over the 400-foot sign in right center field. I stepped on the plate and made my way to the dugout, expecting an enthusiastic welcome from my teammates. But no one said a word. I quietly went to the end of the bench, sat down, stared straight out at the field. I was unfamiliar with the baseball tradition of ignoring a rookie's first home run, a way of saying one day doesn't make a career. A few minutes later, all the other guys walked over, slapped me on the back, and congratulated me. Message delivered. Nice job, Hobbs, said one of the guys, referring to Roy Hobbs, the sweet-singing left fielder of the Natural. I even wore the same number as Hobbs, 9, and played the same position. My career certainly clicked at the start. In addition to the homer I hit safely in the first 7 games, staking my claim to the number 3 spot on the batting order and as one of the organization's top prospects. I saw a lot of good fastballs and sharp breaking balls, and the pitchers seemed less likely to throw the same pitch twice in a row. In college, I learned the art of patience at the plate, and that was one reason I was able to jump right into the battle and compete. But like the fictional character, I was in for some off-field surprises, not all of them pleasant. Minor league life wasn't all it was cracked up to be. The romance wears off pretty quickly during the long bus rides and lonely nights at fleabag hotels in small towns. After a while, the mere sight of another greasy pizza or hamburger joint nauseated me. The ballparks were small and the locker rooms overcrowded. The facilities did not measure up to those at many colleges. I'd heard big leaguers complain about playing in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh seems like Paris compared to Pittsfield. And I was one of the lucky ones. I had a $20,000 bonus, though it was dwindling quickly, to supplement my salary of $700 a month. A lot of guys were supporting wives and kids. Even though I was playing well, there were no guarantees. I realized I could be out of a job as fast as you can say batting slump. After 4 years of being taken care of at Loyola, playing professionally was a lesson in humility. I discovered more competition among teammates than against the opposition. In fact, the desire to earn a promotion was so great that if you looked closely enough, you'd see guys rooting against teammates on the verge of breaking through, making it impossible to look to them for support. A guy would trip you rounding third to get a shot at the big time. There was no patience for your on field struggles or personal problems. So everyone learned to put on a charade of invincibility. Only after the uniform came off and everyone went home did the inevitable insecurities surface. Anna was my lifeline. On the phone with her each night in LA, where she was still attending Loyola, I poured my heart out. These conversations, along with the occasional chat with my parents, were my only consolation. I feel like we're just all meat for this organization, I said. The competition to make it to the big leagues is just awesome. Guys like me are a dime a dozen. I know, Billy, she said, but don't forget how much better prepared you are than most of the players. Remember what your father always said about your ability and determination. Our connection meant everything. But in the back of my mind, I had a nagging suspicion that we were not right for each other. There was no question that I loved her, yet there was something missing, something I still couldn't quite define. It had only been about 4 months since the massage with the male trainer, and I couldn't quite get it out of my mind. But living in the hermetically sealed off world of baseball, girlfriend and family, I couldn't figure out how to test the hypothesis I was starting to form. By pure coincidence, reality intruded. 1 year later, during my 1987 season with the AAA Toledo Mud Hens, we traveled to Rhode Island to square off against the Pawtucket Red Sox. We were staying in a hotel nearby in Providence. A pride parade was scheduled for the weekend, and the place was overflowing with gay people. My teammates freaked out. Their remarks ranged from bathroom humor to outright hostility. If anyone felt sympathy, they weren't about to show it. I certainly wasn't. Can you believe all the fucking homos around here? One player said. I'm going to make sure I lock my room tonight. I, however, found myself, well, intrigued. I had no idea there was such a thing as a pride march. I secretly hoped to find a way to glimpse the goings on, a dangerous idea with my teammates around. I was disappointed when I learned the parade conflicted with a game. I made a mental note to do more research. Maybe my teammates are right. How could I be more interested in a bunch of homosexuals than the great game I was getting paid to play? In my naivete, it would take me some time to put two and two together. My teammates also had things on their minds beside baseball. I'm convinced that more than anything else, idle time brings out the devil in ball players. When we weren't traveling, practicing, or playing, we had too much free time, especially on the road with little companionship. Minor leaguers could make frat boys look angelic. During a Glens Falls Tigers trip to Burlington, Vermont, I returned to my hotel after dinner. As I walked through the hallway of the single-story lodge, one of the guys hollered at me to join them in their room. I figured we'd have a brew and watch TV. Opening the door, I saw four of my teammates having sex with what looked for all the world like a 14-year-old girl. My jaw dropped. I quickly turned to leave when they invited me to join them. Come on, Beaner, they said. She's into it. Grab a beer and have some fun. Didn't look fun to me. The term statutory rape came to mind. and I hightailed it out of there. The next day, the guys immediately started giving me a hard time. Dude, are you a fag or something? One said. How could you pass on a hot girl like that? I thought of reminding him that he was the one having sex in front of three other naked guys, but I bit my lip. I whipped a trusty photo of Anna out of my wallet and lamely defended myself against their charge, using the pretext of being faithful to my hometown girl. I carried the picture around just for such occasions. It shut them up every time. If I had a girl like that, I wouldn't fool around either, he said. She's quite the babe. I doubted there was any woman on earth who could make them stop chasing it. At least at that point in our lives, for my teammates, fooling around was about much more than sex. It wasn't enough to be a stud first baseman or slugger. You had to be a badass off the field as well. Screw the most women, show off the biggest dick, and drink the most beer. Bigger was always better, a reaction to the unrelenting pressure to be the best on the field. I was always shocked at how brazenly guys who professed to hate homos strutted around the locker room, showing off their well-toned muscles and flopping cocks. They were always bragging about the abuse their baby took screwing a chick the night before. It was hard to tell how much of the talk was nothing more than bravado, but that glimpse inside the hotel room told me there was something to it. Rafael Garcia was a reliever and team clown. He'd been laboring in the minors, waiting for his shot for nearly a decade. An extremely well-endowed man, he loved to put on a show by placing his package out of sight between his legs. Every time he'd record a save or win, this hyper-masculine guy would prance around the locker room, mimicking the stereotype of an effeminate homosexual, earning the nickname Marty, shorthand for Marisol or fag. Ay, papi, que rico, he'd say with a pronounced lisp. Hey, big boy, you look mighty fine. Everyone howled. After one victory, the guys began to line up for the shower in the cramped clubhouse, which only had 6 heads and a small open stall. The drain clogged and brackish water backed up to the point where it was ankle deep. Standing in the middle of this lake, Raphael took a piss as 5 other guys showered. His bladder must have been as large as the rest of his plumbing because urine flowed like water over Niagara Falls. Most of those in the stall didn't notice until they heard everyone else cracking up. The water never did recede, and Raphael ended up having the shower all to himself. He stood there, a big grin on his face, soaping up under the hot water. It was clear the rest of us would be showering at home that night. About 5 minutes later, everyone had forgotten about it. Just another day of chaos in AA. These hijinks made me miss my college teammates. They might have been crazy too, but at least they were closer to my kind of crazy. I tried to keep in touch, but spending time on the road made it a challenge. The previous summer in Fairbanks, I dated a pretty redhead named Shelley. I'd met her at the stadium, and it was obvious she had a thing for ball players. Apparently, she had developed a crush on me. One night in Glens Falls, I'd heard her voice on the other end of the phone line. Billy, I've got something to tell you, she said. I'm pregnant. What? We always used protection. I'd like to get on the next flight to New York so we can raise our child together. I sweated bullets until I heard laughter in the background. It was Donald's and McEnany. They had returned to play for the Gold Panthers and had run into Shelley. Jimmy got on the phone and started screaming. He and Chris set the whole thing up. Beaner, we nailed you. We scared the shit out of you. You guys are fucking idiots, I lectured. Don't you have anything else better to do? I'm going to kill you both. It was a cruel practical joke, no doubt, but after we talked for half an hour and caught up with one another, I realized it was their fumbling attempt to stay close. These guys missed me, and they wanted to remind me that no matter how our lives might change and where we would end up, we'd be brothers forever. It wasn't long before I warmed up to my Glen Falls teammates. The team was divided into 3 camps. There were a half dozen Black and Latino players, a few college guys like me, and the rest were country boys, straight off the farm, many of whom had been in the minors for nearly a decade. I had no idea where I fit in. I was assigned to a room with Ray Palacios, burly catcher, born in Puerto Rico and raised in Red Hook, Brooklyn, a rough neighborhood known for its drug traffic and gang violence. A lot of the white players couldn't stand him. Most of the black players would roll their eyes when he launched into his withering commentary on their athletic shortcomings. Ray was just one of those guys who called things as he saw them. If you busted your butt, he'd give you the shirt off his back. But if you were weak, selfish, or played like a coward, he'd let you know it in no uncertain terms. I took a liking to Ray right away. He walked the talk, playing his ass off every night. At first, he was a flurry of barbs my way, but my hitting play earned his respect. Being around a freewheeling, sensual guy like Ray felt somehow liberating. He told me about all the crime he'd witnessed in Red Hook. Baseball, he said proudly, was going to be his way out. Before long, I connected with the half dozen or so black players on the Tigers. Palacios told me I played ball like a brother, one of the best compliments I'd ever received. My style came from growing up in a public school district in which white kids were the minority. I spent much of my childhood on the playing fields and basketball courts of the inner city. We made no distinctions along racial and ethnic lines, only on whether a guy could play ball, how strong his arm is, and can he hit for power? Does he work hard? On road trips, Ricky Barlow and Morris Madden would invite me to their hotel room for a few beers and a game of cards while we watched major league games on television. The Tigers' first round draft pick, right out, right out of a Texas high school, Ricky was known as Water Can because of his ability to suck down beer like water. He never lived up to his can't miss prospect status, reaching the majors in 1987, but for only a brief stay. Morris, A.J. Matting, was a terrific singer who happened to be a left-handed pitcher with a nasty hook. He could be erratic on the mound, which explained why it would take a guy with great stuff 10 years to make it to the majors. When you play that long in the minors, front office execs don't give you much of a chance to fail at the next level. The three of us became inseparable, sealing our friendship the way guys do with pickup baseball at the Glens Falls YMCA. It helped that I could go to the hoop. After a July night game in Waterbury, AJ and Watercan invited me along to the nightclub. In their own way, they were saying that I'd become one of them. We wound up at Ike's, a huge club right in front of the heart of the city's black neighborhood. Looking around, I saw that I was the only white person there. When I say only, I mean it. It took me some time and a little bit of alcohol coursing through my blood to get over the feeling that I didn't belong. Watercan and AJ didn't leave my side all night. The girls thought I was the bomb. At one point, a good-looking young woman sidled up to me. "Boy, you're crazy," she declared. "Why?" She responded with a giggle. The guys were not so welcoming. They shot me suspicious glares. "What's with the white boy?" one asked AJ and Watercan. "Where did you find him?" "He's one of us," I remember them responding. "It's cool." After quite a few beers, I must have forgotten my race. I grooved to Cool in the Gang, Cameo, and Milli Vanilli thumping over the sound system. The three of us camped out in the middle of the dance floor, surrounded by young women. Danced the night away. I didn't get back to my room until about 3 a.m., exhausted but happy. The next afternoon, I arrived at the park, a little hungover, but ready to begin my pregame routine. As we stretched on the field a couple of hours before the game, Watercan and AJ regaled my teammates with stories of our previous night's adventure. "Beaner parties like a brother," AJ announced with a huge grin. "He's got the moves. The white boy could dance." The rest of the guys were giving me a hard time. The stories contained more than a few exaggerations. But there was an undercurrent of respect and generosity to their description, so I kept my mouth shut. The night had brought us together as a team, and I wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize this rare moment of unity. And that is chapter 4 of Billy Bean with Chris Bull, Going the Other Way. Thanks for watching. Come back tomorrow for chapter 5. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, please know that in the coming days, we'll be adding more of our content to our new Vimeo account. We'll also be uploading links to the story on our website, https://paequality.com. And thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.